Fellow runners, it's time for the latest transmission from Cyber Acme, the digital backbone of modern life and industrial leader in AI functionality. The information contained within will be beneficial to your shelf for life support on Tau 74, enabling you, the runner, to focus on what's most important: profit. The system settings are only in the alpha stage at this time, however, some of these are going to be vital to your survival and ultimately your successful exfiltration. Some of these are actively making you worse and are turned on by default, so make the most important decision, like your neural sync depends on it, and push back against the UESC. Here's the 8 settings in Marathon that you need to turn off. First and foremost, your settings are located with the settings icon on the bottom right of the main menu and can be accessed at any time from any of the sub-menus as well. We're going to start with video settings because I think these are some of the most important ones that you're going to want to change straight out of the gate just to improve the base gameplay of what is going on. Now, a lot of these settings are based on the console settings because that's all that I've got access to at the minute, and the footage from this is from an Xbox Series S, so don't shoot the messenger if there are a few settings that are extra on the PlayStation 5 Pro and Xbox Series X. But first off, I think in any game these days then, realistically you want to be looking at the field of view slider. When you first turn the game on, I believe that this is down at 90, which isn't too bad to be honest. However, I do prefer to crank it up, and I know a lot of people don't like the fishbowl effect that it can offer when it is turned up a little bit, but I think 100 is a nice sweet spot. It can be pushed out to 105, and again 105 is not going to give you that fishbowl effect. You're probably not really going to get that until 120, and obviously it doesn't go up that high, so I think 100 is a good middle ground at this point, and again just experiment with it as you wish. Brightness wise then, the standard brightness I think was turned down at 2. I like to be able to see everything in game. I know that Marathon is all singing, all dancing in terms of full on colours and everything like that. However, some of the darks and some of the corridor areas within some of the settings can be a little bit difficult, so crank that brightness up. I mean, you don't want to be at a disadvantage by not being able to see other runners who are going to take you out at the shortest notice, especially if you can't see them. I've turned it up to 4, it obviously depends on what your monitor and stuff is like. For the anti-aliasing setting then, I'd just keep that as standard. On mine it's as the AMD FSR, which doesn't seem to be causing me too many issues, and I know that anti-aliasing isn't really a massive issue these days, especially on console and also on PC given some of the graphics settings that come as standard. Depth of field, then I think you want to turn this one up. High is set as standard. This is just going to allow you to see further out into the distance and the render distance and whatnot. High is probably the best bit, especially in the alpha. Some of the, it's a bit blocky in places. Obviously it hasn't had the final pass, the final touch of paint that the game will get for its full release. So I think high is probably going to give you that best vantage point, and on top of that, you're really not going to see anybody further away than that anyway, given the the smallness of the maps, even on the Dire Marsh, which is the largest of the maps available in the alpha. Motion blur, now this is one that is going to start giving you a little bit of a disadvantage in gameplay. Marathon is teed up to be a PvP extraction shooter, so motion blur is really going to make it difficult, especially once you start getting to that high-end endgame gameplay where movement is going to be key. Motion blur is not going to make you be able to see some of your targets, especially if they're moving. If you've got a good glitch going on, then that motion blur is really going to put you off in terms of aiming at that character. So just turn it off. It's going to make it your time a lot easier in game. As for the additional video settings that we've got available here, we've got chromatic aberration and film grain. Again, both of these are really just going to make it really difficult to see characters. They give you that vibe, they give you that effect in game, make it feel a little bit more off-worldy. If you want to win and you want to extract with all your loot, then you want to turn these settings off. They're just hindering you, there's no point in them being on. And in terms of the aesthetics that they're going to give, unless you're just a PvE nut trying to play this PvP game, then you're not going to benefit from it. Sound wise, these are all turned up to 10. I wouldn't recommend turning any of them down. The sound effects and the the noises of, you know, hearing whether there's enemies above you and stuff like that seem to be dialed in pretty nicely. You can tell roughly where they are given the sound of what they are standing on at the time, and if you've got some decent headphones then you're probably going to be all set with the sound wise, to be honest. Now in terms of controller settings, then there are a few things on here that you really do need to change because it's just really slow. Like, one of my main complaints about the gameplay of Marathon, I enjoy the movement, it's smooth, it feels good to play, the gunplay excellent, everything like that, but everything is just really slow, and some of that is built into the game. Bungie are going to need to change that. I feel like they need to turn up the speed of the characters in game and also in the menus just a little bit, maybe 5-10%, something like that. It's one of the main complaints I've seen online anyway, but you can change a little bit of that in the controller settings, and you will probably be able to change this in the keyboard and mouse settings, but obviously I don't have access to that, so I can't see what options you've got. But mostly you're going to be looking at your sensitivity settings regardless whether you're on keyboard and mouse or controller. When I went into this was down at 2 as soon as I booted up Marathon. Not what you want. I hate the slowness of the look sensitivity when it is so slow. Now, I'm not the best at PvP games by any stretch of the imagination, but being slow turning is not going to give you an advantage in any way, shape or form in any gun battle. Whether that's against bots or whether that's against other runners, you need to turn that up. Now, I've gradually been turning the look sensitivity up a little bit. 10 I believe is about halfway. I'm probably going to push it a little bit higher. It's just going to depend on how much I get used to the game, especially in the next few weeks with the alpha and probably within the upcoming beta as well. You've also got the ADS sensitivity modifier. Now, this is just going to make the guns feel a little bit quicker when you're aiming down sights. This is up at 1.4 for me. I can't remember what it was when I initially turned on the game. I've probably turned that up a little bit. It may have been down at 1.1, 1.2. Turn it up, crank it up. It's going to make your life a lot easier once you get used to that little bit of extra movement when you're trying to track targets, especially with the immense aim assist that is being reported in this game. ADS sensitivity modifier is going to make your life a lot easier in terms of locking onto targets as well. Unless you're some sort of weirdo freak, then you're not going to want to invert your settings neither. Controller vibration, now this is one of them ones that is going to negatively impact you in a PvP game. Turn that off. Unless you're crazy, unless you're mad, unless you like the immersion, then controller vibration is gonna ultimately put you off when you're trying to stay on target. If you're getting flinched into the moon, controller vibration is not going to help in any way, shape or form keep on target and hopefully defeat that other player. If you want to swap the bumpers and triggers depending on what you prefer to compared to other games, then you can do. Ultimately, I think there needs to be a little bit more in terms of controller settings and remapping of buttons. I'm forever pressing the wrong button to ping enemies and to ping stuff. Like, I'll start pressing LB and it'll start doing something else that I don't want it to do other than ping. So hopefully Bungie are listening and will bring in some sort of controller and keyboard and mouse remapping support at a later date. Gameplay wise, now this is where we're getting some settings to assist people in terms of usability and stuff like that. HUD opacity, keep that one turned on to full. You want to be having the most amount of information that you can. There's probably a few things that I think Bungie can probably add later down the line, but this isn't a feedback video, it is literally about settings, so keep that one turned on. And we also have a few settings for reticle colours. This is going to assist anybody with colour blindness and any sort of issues with eyesight, or even if you just prefer changing it, you've got a few colours to cycle through there if you wish. You've got some subtitle settings. I'm keeping these as they are as standard at the minute. They're fine by me. If you want to turn them off, then turn them off. Remember, all these settings are just personal preference. If you've got any other opinions, then let me know down in the comments. Runners, this has been the latest transmission from Cyber Acme, the digital backbone of modern life and industrial leader in AI functionality. Now go get back in your shell and down onto Tau Ceti 4.